Welcome to the Ultimate SAA-C03 Exam Masterclass. Are you ready to crack the SAA-C03 exam in one go? You're in the right place. In this session, we'll arm you with powerful insights and hand-picked questions that can make all the difference in your exam performance. We've scanned the web using intelligent crawlers to gather the most critical and high-impact questions, all compiled into one powerful PDF resource. You can download it from the link in the description. Not only will we explore these must-practice questions, but we'll also share real exam experiences and pro tips to give you that competitive edge. Let's dive into the key questions that could shape your success. Question 1. A company needs the ability to analyze the log files of its proprietary application. The logs are stored in JSON format in an Amazon S3 bucket. Queries will be simple and will run on demand. A solutions architect needs to perform the analysis with minimal changes to the existing architecture. A. Use Amazon Redshift to load all the content into one place and run the SQL queries as needed. B. Use Amazon CloudWatch logs to store the logs. Run SQL queries as needed from the Amazon CloudWatch console. C. Use Amazon Athena directly with Amazon S3 to run the queries as needed. D. Use AWS Glue to catalog the logs. Use a transient Apache Spark cluster on Amazon EMR to run the SQL queries as needed. Correct answer, C. Use Amazon Athena directly with Amazon S3 to run the queries as needed. Explanation: Athena lets you run SQL queries directly on S3 data with no infrastructure setup. It's ideal for simple, ad hoc analysis. Question 2. A company uses AWS organizations to manage multiple AWS accounts for different departments. The management account has an Amazon S3 bucket that contains project reports. The company wants to limit access to this S3 bucket to only users of accounts within the organization in AWS organizations. A. Add the AWS Principal Org ID global condition key with a reference to the organization ID to the S3 bucket policy. B. Create an organizational unit (OU) for each department. Add the AWS Principal Org Paths global condition key to the S3 bucket policy. C. Use AWS CloudTrail to monitor the create account, invite account to organization, leave organization, and remove account from organization events. Update the S3 bucket policy accordingly. D. Tag each user that needs access to the S3 bucket. Add the AWS Principal Tag global condition key to the S3 bucket policy. Correct answer A. Add the AWS Principal Org ID global condition key with a reference to the organization ID to the S3 bucket policy. Explanation: Using the AWS Principal Org ID condition in the bucket policy ensures only users from within the organization can access the bucket. Question 3. An application runs on an Amazon EC2 instance in a PC. The application processes logs that are stored in an Amazon S3 bucket. The EC2 instance needs to access the S3 bucket without connectivity to the internet. A. Create a gateway VPC endpoint to the S3 bucket. B. Stream the logs to Amazon CloudWatch logs. Export the logs to the S3 bucket. C. Create an instance profile on Amazon EC2 to allow S3 access. D. Create an Amazon API Gateway API with a private link to access the S3 endpoint. Correct answer A. Create a Gateway VPC endpoint to the S3 bucket. Explanation: A Gateway VPC endpoint enables private access to S3 without requiring internet connectivity, or a NAT gateway. Question 4. A company duplicated its web architecture to use two EC2 instances with separate EBS volumes in different availability zones. After doing so, users report they cannot access all their uploaded documents consistently. A. Copy the data so both EBS volumes contain all the documents. B. Configure the application load balancer to direct a user to the server with the documents. C. Copy the data from both EBS volumes to Amazon EFS. Modify the application to save new documents to Amazon EFS. D. Configure the application load balancer to send a request to both servers. Return each document from the correct server. Correct answer, C. Copy the data from both EBS volumes to Amazon EFS. Modify the application to save new documents to Amazon EFS. Explanation: Amazon EFS provides a shared file system that can be accessed from multiple instances across availability zones. Question 5. A company has an application that ingests messages which are quickly consumed by dozens of microservices. The message volume can spike to 100,000 per second. The company wants to decouple the solution and scale efficiently. A. Persist the messages to Amazon Kinesis Data Analytics. Configure the consumer applications to read and process the messages. B. Deploy the ingestion application on Amazon EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group to scale the number of EC2 instances based on CPU metrics. C. Write the messages to Amazon Kinesis data streams with a single shard. Use an AWS Lambda function to preprocess messages and store them in Amazon DynamoDB. Configure the consumer applications to read from DynamoDB to process the messages. D. Publish the messages to an Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, topic with multiple Amazon Simple Queues service, Amazon SQS, subscriptions. Configure the consumer applications to process the messages from the queues. Correct answer D. Publish the messages to an Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, topic with multiple Amazon Simple Queues service, Amazon SQS, subscriptions. Configure the consumer applications to process the messages from the queues. Explanation: SNS with multiple SQS subscriptions decouples producers and consumers and handles high-throughput scenarios efficiently. Question 6. A company runs an SMB file server with frequently accessed files that become rarely accessed after 7 days. The storage is reaching capacity. The company wants to expand storage and manage file lifecycle automatically. A. Use AWS Data Sync to copy data that is older than 7 days from the SMB file server to AWS. B. Create an Amazon S3 file gateway to extend the company's storage space. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition the data to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 7 days. C. Create an Amazon FSx for Windows File Server file system to extend the company's storage space. D. Install a utility on each user's computer to access Amazon S3. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition the data to S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval after 7 days. Correct answer B. Create an Amazon S3 file gateway to extend the company's storage space. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition the data to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 7 days. Explanation: S3 File Gateway extends on-prem storage and integrates with lifecycle policies to offload cold data cost-effectively. Question 7. A company runs an application on EC2 that uses an Aurora database. The credentials are stored in plain text on the instance. The company wants to reduce credential management overhead. A. Use AWS Secrets Manager. Turn on automatic rotation. B. Use AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store. Turn on automatic rotation. C. Create an Amazon S3 bucket to store objects encrypted with an AWS KMS key. Migrate the credential file to the S3 bucket. D. Create an encrypted Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS, volume for each EC2 instance. Migrate the credential file to the new EBS volume. Correct answer A. Use AWS Secrets Manager. Turn on automatic rotation. Explanation: Secrets Manager securely stores, manages, and rotates database credentials automatically, reducing management overhead. Question 8. A web application stores transaction data in a MySQL 8.0 database on a large EC2 instance. As traffic increases, read performance degrades. The app needs to scale reads and maintain high availability. A. Use Amazon Redshift with a single node for leader and compute functionality. B. Use Amazon RDS with a single AZ deployment. Configure Amazon RDS to add reader instances in a different availability zone. C. Use Amazon Aurora with a multi-AZ deployment. Configure Aurora auto-scaling with Aurora replicas. D. Use Amazon Elasticache for Memcached with EC2 Spot instances. Correct answer, C. Use Amazon Aurora with a multi-AZ deployment. Configure Aurora auto-scaling with Aurora replicas. Explanation: Aurora auto-scaling with replicas allows seamless horizontal scaling for unpredictable read workloads with high availability. Question 9. A company migrated to AWS and wants to replicate on-premises inspection of VPC traffic to detect and filter threats. What AWS native solution best meets these needs? A. Use Amazon GuardDuty for traffic inspection and traffic filtering in the production VPC. B. Use traffic mirroring to mirror traffic from the production VPC for traffic inspection and filtering. C. Use AWS Network Firewall to create the required rules for traffic inspection and traffic filtering for the production VPC. D. Use AWS Firewall Manager to create the required rules for traffic inspection and traffic filtering for the production VPC. Correct answer, C. Use AWS Network Firewall to create the required rules for traffic inspection and traffic filtering for the production VPC. Explanation: AWS Network Firewall provides stateful inspection, filtering, and logging of VPC traffic using fully managed rules. Question 10. A company is implementing a new application using two EC2 instances that store documents in S3. What should a solutions architect do to ensure the instances can access the bucket? A. Create an IAM role that grants access to the S3 bucket. Attach the role to the EC2 instances. B. Create an IAM policy that grants access to the S3 bucket. Attach the policy to the EC2 instances. C. Create an IAM group that grants access to the S3 bucket. Attach the group to the EC2 instances. D. Create an IAM user that grants access to the S3 bucket. Attach the user account to the EC2 instances. Correct answer A. Create an IAM role that grants access to the S3 bucket. Attach the role to the EC2 instances. Explanation: the best practice is to use IAM roles for EC2 to securely grant applications temporary credentials to access AWS services. Question 11. A solutions architect is using Amazon S3 to design the storage architecture of a new digital media application. The media files must be resilient to the loss of an availability zone. Some files are accessed frequently while other files are rarely accessed in an unpredictable pattern. The solutions architect must minimize the costs of storing and retrieving the media files. A. S3 Standard. B. S3 Intelligent Tiering. C. S3 Standard Infrequent Access, S3 Standard IA. D. S3 One Zone Infrequent Access, S3 One Zone IA. Correct answer B. S3 Intelligent Tiering. Explanation: S3 Intelligent Tiering automatically moves files between access tiers based on usage, optimizing storage costs without sacrificing availability. Question 12. A company is storing backup files by using Amazon S3 Standard Storage. The files are accessed frequently for 1 month. However, the files are not accessed after 1 month. The company must keep the files indefinitely. A. Configure S3 Intelligent Tiering to automatically migrate objects. B. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transition objects from S3 Standard to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 month. C. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transition objects from S3 standard to S3 standard infrequent access, S3 standard IA, after 1 month. D. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transition objects from S3 standard to S3 one-zone infrequent access, S3 one-zone IA, after 1 month. Correct answer B. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transition objects from S3 standard to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 month. Explanation: S3 Glacier Deep Archive offers the lowest cost for long-term storage of rarely accessed data, and lifecycle rules automate the transition. Question 13. A company observes an increase in Amazon EC2 costs in its most recent bill. The billing team notices unwanted vertical scaling of instance types for a couple of EC2 instances. A solutions architect needs to create a graph comparing the last 2 months of EC2 costs and perform an in-depth analysis to identify the root cause of the vertical scaling. A. Use AWS budgets to create a budget report and compare EC2 costs based on instance types. B. Use Cost Explorer's granular filtering feature to perform an in-depth analysis of EC2 costs based on instance types. C. Use graphs from the AWS Billing and Cost Management dashboard to compare EC2 costs based on instance types for the last 2 months. D. Use AWS Cost and Usage reports to create a report and send it to an Amazon S3 bucket. Use Amazon QuickSight with Amazon S3 as a source to generate an interactive graph based on instance types. Correct answer B. Use Cost Explorer's granular filtering feature to perform an in-depth analysis of EC2 costs based on instance types. Explanation: Cost Explorer allows detailed filtering and visualization by instance type and usage, ideal for identifying unexpected cost spikes. Question 14. A company needs to review its AWS cloud deployment to ensure that its Amazon S3 buckets do not have unauthorized configuration changes. A. Turn on AWS config with the appropriate rules. B. Turn on AWS Trusted Advisor with the appropriate checks. C. Turn on Amazon Inspector with the appropriate assessment template. D. Turn on Amazon S3 Server Access Logging. Configure Amazon EventBridge, Amazon CloudWatch events. Correct answer A. Turn on AWS config with the appropriate rules. Explanation: AWS config provides continuous monitoring and auditing of S3 configurations, ensuring compliance with company policies. Question 15. A development team runs monthly resource-intensive tests on its general-purpose Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance with performance insights enabled. The testing lasts for 48 hours once a month and is the only process that uses the database. The team wants to reduce the cost of running the tests without reducing the compute and memory attributes of the DB instance. A. Stop the DB instance when tests are completed. Restart the DB instance when required. B. Use an auto-scaling policy with the DB instance to automatically scale when tests are completed. C. Create a snapshot when tests are completed. Terminate the DB instance and restore the snapshot when required. D. Modify the DB instance to a low-capacity instance when tests are completed. Modify the DB instance again when required. Correct answer, C. Create a snapshot when tests are completed. Terminate the DB instance and restore the snapshot when required. Explanation: Creating a snapshot and restoring when needed avoids ongoing charges and maintains the same performance during test runs. Question 16. A company that hosts its web application on AWS wants to ensure all Amazon EC2 instances, Amazon RDS DB instances, and Amazon Redshift clusters are configured with tags. The company wants to minimize the effort of configuring and operating this check. A. Use AWS config rules to define and detect resources that are not properly tagged. B. Use Cost Explorer to display resources that are not properly tagged. Tag those resources manually. C. Write API calls to check all resources for proper tag allocation. Periodically run the code on an EC2 instance. D. Write API calls to check all resources for proper tag allocation. Schedule an AWS Lambda function through Amazon CloudWatch to periodically run the code. Correct answer A. Use AWS config rules to define and detect resources that are not properly tagged. Explanation: AWS config rules can automatically evaluate resource tags across services and report non-compliance with minimal effort. Question 17. A development team needs to host a website that will be accessed by other teams. The website contents consist of HTML, CSS, client-side JavaScript, and images. A. Containerize the website and host it in AWS Fargate. B. Create an Amazon S3 bucket and host the website there. C. Deploy a web server on an Amazon EC2 instance to host the website. D. Configure an application load balancer with an AWS Lambda target that uses the Express.js framework. Correct answer B. Create an Amazon S3 bucket and host the website there. Explanation: Amazon S3 static website hosting is the most cost-effective and simplest solution for static content like HTML and JavaScript. Question 18. A company hosts its multi-tier applications on AWS. For compliance, governance, auditing, and security, the company must track configuration changes on its AWS resources and record a history of API calls made to these resources. A. Use AWS CloudTrail to track configuration changes and AWS Config to record API calls. B. Use AWS Config to track configuration changes and AWS CloudTrail to record API calls. C. Use AWS Config to track configuration changes and Amazon CloudWatch to record API calls. D. Use AWS CloudTrail to track configuration changes and Amazon CloudWatch to record API calls. Correct answer B. Use AWS Config to track configuration changes and AWS CloudTrail to record API calls. Explanation: AWS Config tracks configuration changes over time, and CloudTrail records all API calls for auditing purposes. Question 19. A company is preparing to launch a public-facing web application in the AWS cloud. The architecture consists of Amazon EC2 instances within a VPC behind an elastic load balancer, ELB. A third-party service is used for the DNS. The company's solutions architect must recommend a solution to detect and protect against large-scale DDoS attacks. A. Enable Amazon Guard Duty on the account. B. Enable Amazon Inspector on the EC2 instances. C. Enable AWS Shield and assign Amazon Route 53 to it. D. Enable AWS Shield Advanced and assign the ELB to it. Correct answer D. Enable AWS Shield Advanced and assign the ELB to it. Explanation: AWS Shield Advanced provides enhanced DDoS protection for applications behind ELBs, including cost protection and attack diagnostics. Question 20. A company recently launched a variety of new workloads on Amazon EC2 instances in its AWS account. The company needs to create a strategy to access and administer the instances remotely and securely. The company needs to implement a repeatable process that works with native AWS services and follows the AWS well-architected framework. A. Use the EC2 Serial Console to directly access the terminal interface of each instance for administration. B. Attach the appropriate IAM role to each existing instance and new instance. Use AWS Systems Manager Session Manager to establish a remote SSH session. C. Create an administrative SSH key pair. Load the public key into each EC2 instance. Deploy a bastion host in a public subnet to provide a tunnel for administration of each instance. D. Establish an AWS site-to-site VPN connection. Instruct administrators to use their local on-premises machines to connect directly to the instances by using SSH keys across the VPN tunnel. Correct answer B. Attach the appropriate IAM role to each existing instance and new instance. Use AWS Systems Manager Session Manager to establish a remote SSH session. Explanation: AWS Systems Manager Session Manager allows secure, auditable access to EC2 instances without SSH or a bastion host. Question 21. A solutions architect must design a solution to allow users to upload objects to Amazon S3. The solution must minimize the cost associated with unused storage while ensuring that the files remain available. A. Store the files with S3 intelligent tiering. B. Store the files with S3 standard IA. C. Store the files with S3 one-zone IA. D. Store the files with S3 Glacier Deep Archive. Correct answer A. Store the files with S3 intelligent tiering. Explanation: S3 intelligent tiering automatically moves data to lower-cost tiers based on access patterns, minimizing cost with no loss of availability. Question 22. A company has an application that processes weather sensor data from devices that are located around the world. The devices send data every minute. The data must be written to AWS cloud storage for real-time processing. A solutions architect needs to write each data item to storage immediately, and data items must not be lost if a sensor has connectivity issues. A. Write data to Amazon S3. Use Amazon QuickSight for analysis. B. Write data to Amazon S3 with Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose. C. Write data to Amazon S3 with AWS IoT Sitewise. D. Write data to Amazon S3 with Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration. Correct answer B. Write data to Amazon S3 with Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose. Explanation: Kinesis Data Firehose buffers and delivers data to S3 reliably and can retry on failures, ensuring durability and near real-time delivery. Question 23. A company needs to implement a highly available architecture for its application that uses Amazon EC2. Some requirements include session stickiness, fault tolerance across availability zones, and controlled routing based on application health. A. Use Amazon Route 53 and round-robin routing. B. Use an application load balancer with sticky sessions enabled. C. Use a network load balancer with cross-zone load balancing. D. Use Amazon CloudFront with geolocation routing. Correct answer B. Use an application load balancer with sticky sessions enabled. Explanation: An application load balancer supports sticky sessions, health checks, and distributes traffic across AZs for high availability. Question 24. A company wants to launch a new application in AWS that must be highly available. The application requires a minimum of 2 EC2 instances running at all times. A. Launch 2 EC2 instances in different availability zones with an application load balancer. B. Launch 2 EC2 instances in a single availability zone with an auto-scaling group. C. Launch 1 EC2 instance in one availability zone and create an AMI for backup. D. Launch 2 EC2 instances in different AWS regions. Correct answer A. Launch 2 EC2 instances in different availability zones with an application load balancer. Explanation: Running EC2 instances in different availability zones behind a load balancer ensures high availability and fault tolerance. Question 25. A solutions architect is designing a web application that will run on Amazon EC2 instances in private subnets behind an application load balancer, ALB. The web servers must download software updates from the internet. A. Use a NAT gateway in a public subnet. B. Use an internet gateway and assign public IPs to all EC2 instances. C. Use an AWS Direct Connect connection. D. Use a VPN connection from each instance to the Internet. Correct answer A. Use a NAT gateway in a public subnet. Explanation: a NAT gateway in a public subnet enables instances in private subnets to access the Internet securely for software updates. Question 26. A company wants to use Amazon S3 for storing application log files. The company requires that the files be immediately accessible for 30 days, then stored at the lowest possible cost. A. Use S3 standard for 30 days, then transition to S3 Glacier Deep Archive. B. Use S3 standard for 30 days, then transition to S3 Intelligent Tiering. C. Use S3 standard for 30 days, then transition to S3 Standard IA. D. Use S3 Intelligent Tiering only. Correct answer, C. Use S3 standard for 30 days, then transition to S3 Standard IA. Explanation: S3 Standard IA provides low-cost storage for infrequently accessed data, making it ideal after the first 30 days of frequent use. Question 27. A company runs a mission-critical web application behind an elastic load balancer across multiple availability zones. The company wants a solution that automatically recovers from failed EC2 instances. A. Use EC2 auto recovery. B. Use an auto scaling group. C. Use Amazon CloudWatch alarms. D. Use Amazon Route 53 health checks. Correct answer B. Use an auto scaling group. Explanation: auto scaling groups automatically replace unhealthy instances and maintain the desired capacity for high availability. Question 28. A solutions architect is designing a file-based workload that will run on Amazon EC2 instances in multiple availability zones. The application requires shared access to file-based storage with a standard file system interface. A. Use Amazon S3. B. Use Amazon EBS. C. Use Amazon EFS. D. Use AWS Storage Gateway. Correct answer, C. Use Amazon EFS. Explanation: Amazon EFS is a managed NFS file system that can be mounted across multiple EC2 instances and AZs, ideal for shared storage. Question 29. A company hosts a web application on Amazon EC2 instances. The instances are in a private subnet behind an application load balancer, ALB, in a public subnet. The application must be accessible only through HTTPS and must not use a custom domain name. A. Associate a public IP address with each EC2 instance. B. Attach an SSL certificate to the EC2 instances. C. Use an AWS Certificate Manager (ACM) certificate with the ALB. D. Associate a static IP with the ALB. Correct answer, C. Use an AWS Certificate Manager (ACM) certificate with the ALB. Explanation: using an ACM certificate with the ALB provides HTTPS termination, enabling secure access without requiring changes to the EC2 instances. Question 30. A company is running an application in the AWS cloud that stores data in Amazon S3. The company wants to protect the data from accidental deletion. A. Enable S3 versioning. B. Enable S3 transfer acceleration. C. Enable S3 intelligent tiering. D. Enable S3 lifecycle policies. Correct answer A. Enable S3 versioning. Explanation: S3 versioning preserves, stores, and retrieves all versions of an object, allowing recovery from accidental deletes or overwrites. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.